What is going on, Bills fans? I am Lance Nelson, the president of Built in Buffalo. To my right, Mr. James Stokes, and to my left, Scott Casson. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight? Welcome back to a Built in Buffalo live show. James Stokes, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Friday night, the weekend's here. Just exciting.
And Scott, what do you got going on? How is the weekend setting up for you?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Excited that it's Friday and we got some actual football to talk about. It's just camp and a lot of it is on air. So, take everything with a grain of salt. But excited to see the guys out there, see Josh throwing spirals. He looks great in shorts as always. So excited to get into it and talk some Bills with the boys on a Friday night.
Absolutely. Let's just do that right now. And so training camp is here 3 days in. And is there anything that you have of note? Like, what's your biggest takeaway so far from the first 3 days of camp? Do you have anything notable that you just have been chomping at the bit to get on and kind of get off your chest that you've seen over the past 3 days?
Yeah, biggest thing I've noticed so far, and I'm gonna go into it in my 1 minute segment, so I'll save some stuff, but just how diverse the receiving core looks thus far. Like, it seems like every day we're hearing that a different guy is stepping up. It was Keon Coleman today. It was Matt Collins yesterday. It was Curtis Samuel the day before that. Kincaid has looked pretty well. Dawson Knox is catching passes. So I think we all know we're going to see a much different offense this year. We don't have Stephon Diggs. We don't have Gabe Davis. But we got 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, if you count the tight ends, who are going to put up numbers in this offense, and just how quickly Joe Brady is already getting everybody involved and putting people in opportunities to succeed. Like I said, a lot of it's on air or in 7-on-7s or with no pads, and things will be very different when we play a team in a different color. But just how much involved everybody is getting right off the rip, which I think we knew we are going to see this season, but we're seeing it right from the jump.
Yeah, how about you, Stokes?
Matt Milano's out there. that is super exciting for us as Bills fans. I know throughout the offseason there were a lot of unknowns, and maybe they were just holding back information just because they were just unsure. But him being out there in whatever capacity is exactly what we want as Bills fans, and whatever's gonna happen with the season, how he melds with Terrell Bernard. So it was the most important thing that I saw, and no major injuries in the first week. So that's the other thing.
Don't jinx it, man.
Sorry, I had my fingers crossed when I said that.
Nice. I love seeing Keon Coleman kind of come out of the gate strong. He just one of those things. Your first overall pick of the draft, and you don't know exactly what you're going to be getting out of Keon, and comes out and first day has a pretty incredible catch there on the sideline in the end zone, and just making plenty of plays. And obviously, they're going to spread the ball around and things, but it just was nice to see that he came out and that was not an easy catch, and to make that catch and to make that play with at least a live defender. I know there's no pads and everything, but that's still pretty impressive to me. What do you guys think about specifically, that I think there may have been even another catch that was pretty great as well, but a couple of good catches in day one. And what do you think about the rookie there?
Yeah, I love that he's building some chemistry with Josh right away. He's that kind of receiver that we haven't really had the past couple of years. 6'4", can go up and get it, acrobatic in the air, the kind of guy that Keon's down there somewhere. If we get in the red zone, Josh doesn't have to just throw it away. He doesn't have to try to force it into the triple coverage. If Keon is one-on-one on the outside, I don't like goal line fades, but I'll feel comfortable throwing a goal line fade to Keon Coleman because he's the kind of guy who can go up and get it. And if my guy doesn't catch it, it's not going to get intercepted because he's at least going to fight for the football. So, yeah, I love that they're building some chemistry. Obviously, he's a character off the field, which hopefully helps in the locker room, build some more team camaraderie. But, yeah, really excited for what I've seen. Like you mentioned, that toe tap catch on the sideline on Wednesday. I know he had a long touchdown today in the 7-on-7 period. So really excited to see what Keon Coleman can bring to this offense because it's the kind of dynamic that they haven't really had in the past couple seasons.
Yeah, so I feel very similarly. I feel like he's going to be able to win in a different way than Stephon Diggs did. Stephon would get open because he was so crisp and so precise with the way he ran his routes. But Keon Coleman, if you see him one on one, there's a good chance he's going to put himself in a position to catch it. So I think that they're going to win in different ways, and I think the way Josh will be able to use him in this offense is going to unlock different parts of the offense. And he's not going to have the production like Diggs, but I think he's going to have just as impactful of a role in this offense.
Yeah, I'm excited. I wrote an article and suggested that Keon was my top 5. He was 5th on my top 5 for players I'm looking forward to in training camp and kind of impressed right away. And that's kind of what I was looking to see. I think one of the things I wrote was that if he actually can get off to a fast start in this season, that you might be looking at a player that could be in the running for offensive rookie of the year. I know the quarterbacks usually will tend to lead that, and there's plenty of Marvin Harrison Jr. and those kind of receivers that might take that first. But I just think Keon in this offense, with the way he's got the red zone prowess and got the ability to high point that ball and things like that, and I don't think his down the field game is going to be bad at all. And you said that he caught one today on a deep one. So I think that you're going to find a guy, if he comes out and has steady success, like I say, you could see a guy in the running for offensive rookie of the year. I know that's kind of high praise, and it's not my prediction. My prediction was actually that he's going to make the biggest impact after the bye week. But if he can put together 17 solid games in an offense that doesn't necessarily have a true number one target, he can definitely step in and be in the conversation. In my mind, at least it would be possible. I'm not ruling it out. So, the biggest thing to note, if we stick with the offense now, is Joe Brady said yesterday, we don't have positions, and mentioned how it's still that everybody eats mentality, and it was impressive to hear how he's imploring each guy to go out and learn every position on a play and every nuance of the play, so they know no matter where they are, no matter what position they're plugged into, they're able to run that play. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. I know, Scott, you at least are still participating in some organized football activity and things like that. So I was interested. And then Stokes, I'll start with you though, as to how you envision it and what your thoughts are, I guess, on kind of this approach of like a positionless offense and having like so many guys that can do kind of anything or everything.
So I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because if you have that type of offense, you are sort of injury proof, in the fact that if one man goes down, the next guy knows exactly what to do, and he's not going to be out of his depth because he's practiced this position, he's practiced the depth on these routes, all those types of things. But on the flip side, you don't have that guy in a go-to situation. Like, okay, I know for sure if all else fails, I'm gonna go to this guy because I know he's gonna find a way. But as that stands as well, the defenses aren't going to be able to key on that one guy like teams would usually do with Diggs. They double Diggs and they'd force Josh Allen to figure it out with someone else. And when we had Beasley was winning, but after that it got a little murky at times, and then Josh Allen had to become a superhero. And I think in this offense as it is, it'll be a little bit easier for Josh to say, okay, well, whoever's open is getting the ball, and not feel like he has to give 10, 12 targets to the number one wide receiver. It's like everyone is going to get an opportunity. It just, if the play is called and you're covered, I'm not going to go to you. And that's something that is easier for people to accept if they have that front loaded on them. Whereas when you have players who are expecting the ball as often as some guys had been, that makes it a little bit more difficult to say, well, this game you might get 5 targets and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah, I think it makes the Bills really difficult to defend because even if you see like what guys are out there in the huddle, you don't know how they're going to line up. For example, we're probably going to go out of 12 personnel this year, being 1 running back and 2 tight ends. But both Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid can line up in the slot. Dalton Kincaid can even line up outside. Dawson Knox last year lined up in the backfield a bit. So they're going to have to decide, like, what defense do we put out there? Do we put a nickel corner on Kincaid who's too small? Do we put a linebacker on Kincaid who's too small? And then they put Curtis Samuel in the backfield because he was in the backfield a lot these first couple of days of camp. Do they match him up with a linebacker? And that's a mismatch that Curtis Samuel is going to win every single time. And then Keon Coleman can line up in the slot, can line up outside. Do they put an extra DB on the field? And then guess what? We're in 12 personnel. Keon Coleman is big. We're going to run the ball right down your throat, and we're going to go no huddle, so you don't get the opportunity to match up with us. So the positionless offense is going to be very fun to watch just because all of the things that they can do out of it based on the guys that they have. And that's why I think like Keon Coleman was a great draft pick. He can line up in the slot. He can line up outside. He can catch the ball. He can block. Curtis Samuel can line up in the slot, outside, in the backfield, also doesn't mind blocking. We already know Shakir can do all of this. So it reminds me a bit of like the 49ers offense and what they do with Deebo Samuel. Like if he's on the field, you don't know where he's going to be. And they're going to motion him somewhere that you're not ready for him to be. And he gets mismatches all day because the other team isn't ready for it or they can't adjust quickly enough. So looking for a lot of kind of the 49ers offense in the Bills this season. And we all know how well they've done the past 2 seasons. So I'm excited to see it, and I love that that's the attitude. And I don't think we're going to have any divas on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think anybody's going to care about their target share or how many catches they had. I think it's going to be about wins and losses, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody, Allen echoed everybody eats in his press conference. Kincaid did as well. So I think these guys are all talking about that, and that's the approach. Joe Brady obviously mentioned that as well. An interesting thing Joe Brady said, very old school type mentality of the offensive line is the reason we're scoring touchdowns. And he was asked about his favorite celebration that the guys are doing because they've been very encouraged to do these celebrations as they get in the end zone during training camp. So it's been fun to watch those. But his favorite was when the big guys get to spike the ball. And, he talked about spiking it, over the net and things. So I think that's pretty unique. I'm not sure that I've heard a lot of the offensive coordinators give that much praise to the offensive line in recent memory, but it just reminds me of how kind of my high school coaches and things kind of, talked about the game and how I kind of was brought up in the game, learning it from playing on the offensive line in high school. So it kind of echoed that. It just was a good sentiment for me. I thought that, Brady saying those things and giving the due respect to the offensive line, because that's one of my biggest uncertainties outside of the wide receiver position. Because, we have Roy here and we can go into this question once I've finished, but, offensive line to me is we're losing Mitch Morse and then losing our left guard in Connor McGovern because he's moving to center. So yeah, we gained Connor McGovern at center, but it's still a position he's not played for this team before. And we're going to see how effective he can be, but then also the competition for left guard and how that's going to play out. So first of all, we could stick. We were just talking about wide receivers. Let's just stick and talk about Roy's comment quick, and then go into, if you guys want to comment on the offensive line, comment that Brady made or your thoughts on that. But for me, I'm not concerned about no elite wide receiver on the roster yet. I certainly will be if this offense can't find its footing and can't have that go-to person. My philosophy is that go-to person is going to be different every week, and that's a little bit scary, or that brings a certain level of uncertainty. But I think it also brings a level of surprise that benefits the offense, because you're not going to be able to key on one guy in 3rd down and 4, 3rd down and 6. Those situations, you're not going to be able to necessarily key just on Dalton Kincaid because Khalil Shakir has an 85% catch rate or whatever it is. So, it's like you have to respect the guys on the field. And yes, neither of them or none of them individually may be elite, but I think as a whole, this group is going to be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Very, very much the same as what you just said. I'm not worried about it at the moment. I think the wide receiver by committee can work really well, especially when you have Josh Allen essentially playing point guard and just kind of getting the ball out to who's open, not feeling he has to force it anywhere. And Dalton Kincaid will be a true number one option, I believe, this season. And for those who don't think a tight end can do that, I refer you to the Chiefs the past 2 years. All anybody ever said was, oh, their receiving core isn't good enough. Their receiving core isn't this. And then there's Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes holding the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year. So not saying Dalton Kincaid is Travis Kelce, but he definitely has an opportunity to be a top five tight end in the league. So not concerned there's no elite wide receiver. If things are shaky, maybe my sentiment will change. But I do think they have a true number one option, and that's Dalton Kincaid. And then people forget, James Cook had a great season last year. We're going to run the ball a lot. And, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. We had some timely drops. But between the talent that we do have at receiver, in addition to Dalton Kincaid, other tight end Dawson Knox, and then James Cook, I think there's enough talent on that offense for it to be a functionally solid offense.
Yeah, 3 for 3. I understand where there could be a concern that you don't think you have quote unquote an elite offense if you don't have an elite weapon outside of your quarterback. But I feel like the Bills, they have enough pieces around them to make this the offense seem like it just cannot be stopped. And if you look back to in the Tom Brady years with the Patriots, when they didn't have these true elite wide receivers, but they had a great tight end for pretty much the entirety of Brady's career, and they were just killing you by death by 1,000 cuts, and you just couldn't stop them in that way. And not to say this offense is going to be like that because we have a much different type of quarterback, but you can get by and be just as dominant without an elite wide receiver. It's just a matter of how your quarterback works it and how the pieces fit the offense. And it looks like at this point, of course, that the pieces, they all understand their roles and they can do those things and be successful in that regard.
Right on. And then before, we're going to move on fairly soon here to getting into our season preview, but I did want to spend a little bit of time on training camp because it's new and shiny, and we finally have tangible football to talk about. I think the last thing with the offense was that I noted here was the comment from Brandon Beane when asked about the executive that called Josh Allen overrated. And I've heard a lot of different people's thoughts, but I haven't talked with you much, Stokes, since this comment's been made. So maybe good to hear it. But Beane in the press conference didn't hold back and just says there's idiots everywhere, and you could hear the media kind of go oof. And I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to kind of hear your guys' take on the brass, kind of coming out strong and saying that, and then B, if you want to just spend a moment on maybe your thoughts.
That's an easy win to back your number one guy. When it's an easy take, easy win. Support your guy, and of course, and you're on the right side of history because everything he's done would lend you to believe that information or that suggestion is completely out of bounds. So like when you have anonymous executives making those comments, it's just unless they put their name on it, it's really something that it's hard to even take into real consideration. And you have the proof is in everything he's done. Like the fact that he hasn't beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, that's not something that you should count against him, because Patrick Mahomes is wonderful. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, and the fact that he hasn't beaten him, that is no slight against him. It's just a matter of he played well in most of those games, so it's not as if he's getting completely outshined. So that's just silly talk, and it's wonderful. It's a smart decision to back your guy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a funny comment, and I think it's what most Bills fans thought when they heard it. Just kind of shake it off, move on from it. Like, we don't, at least, in the quote, the lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. Whatever anybody thinks outside of the Bills building is really irrelevant. The Bills know they have their guy. We as Bills fans who watch him every week know he's the guy. So if someone else thinks he's overrated, oh well. But I would bet you, unless it was the Chiefs GM or maybe the Bengals GM, whoever's GM it was would be willing to take Josh Allen over whoever's playing quarterback for them. So it's irrelevant. And if Josh uses it as motivation, great. But yeah, it doesn't change what we see on the field every week.
Agreed. I'm not going to spend more time on it. I gave my thoughts on previous shows, and I don't want to rehash everything. So we got a lot to cover, and just want to get to the defensive side of the ball quickly at training camp. Stokes already mentioned Milano was a full participant in camp, and that's great. Was really surprising, right? He's 3 full days of practice, and I think we thought he might come out and do some stuff lightly on day 1 maybe and ramp up, but it seems like he's been kind of full participant in the first 3 practices. So we'll see. Maybe once pads come on, he'll probably get a little bit of a break, I would assume, and maybe not be put in harm's way that way once they get a little more physical. But I appreciate sorry for Joey's here. Just sorry for your loss, Joey, and glad you can make it, brother. So thanks for joining us. I think that when the pads come on, he may see more of a rest, but I was glad to see him first 3 days. So thoughts on that. And then Damar Hamlin started the first day with the ones at safety, and I believe Mike Edwards has been in there now. So maybe give your thoughts a little bit on the secondary and what you're seeing there.
Yeah, love to see Milano out there. It's awesome. I know we weren't exactly sure what he was going to look like or when he was going to be a full go, because we weren't really told, which was probably by design. But, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say he looked 100% right off the bat. That's to be expected. Going to play his way into shape, kind of get his legs under him again. So just awesome to see that he's out there. He's a huge part of our defense. And then, yeah, it seems like they've been kind of rotating that other starting safety position. It's been Rapp every day. It was Hamlin day 1. It was Mike Edwards yesterday. Today I saw Cole Bishop was in there with the ones. So I think they're going to – it seems to be, a true open competition. Cam Lewis is a safety, but he's kind of that, like, Swiss Army knife DB, kind of a special team guy as well. So giving everybody an open chance to really earn that starting position. And obviously Cole Bishop being a draft pick, someone that they'll probably give it a darn hard look at. And then DeMar in his last year and Mike Edwards on a 1 year. They don't really owe either of them very much. Like, they're not going to be around for that much longer. So, yeah, giving all 3 of them a chance to win the position and rotating, which I like. Competition breeds success. I can't think of the rest of that saying, but excited to see all 3 of those guys getting out there and getting the chance to earn that job.
Yeah, I think that we beat over that horse with Matt Milano. We don't know what we don't know with him. Him being out there and him listed as a full participant is great news. It's great to see. Although, I mean, there are enough clips of him looking a little ginger and making some of the transitions, and that's comes to be expected when you've had such a long time not doing that type of thing in that type of setting. So the fact that he's getting that done now rather than in September when he's trying to ramp up and get ready for a game at the end of the week, this is when we want him to knock that rust off and be that guy that is going to develop something. So that is wonderful to see. And I've got a soft spot for Damar Hamlin prior to even what happened to him in Cincinnati. Like when he came out of the draft, I thought he was going to be a little bit more than he has been. So I'm always going to be rooting for him. And it's I think at the safety position, like that would probably be safety and center. Those are the two positions where I am most concerned about the roster in a general sense. So what goes on there? It isn't as if we don't have people there that can do the job. It's just that you don't know who it's going to be, and you don't know what their strengths are going to be to work along with the defense. So I'm of course rooting for Damar to be successful and be great, but I don't know for sure whether that's going to happen. But it's nice to see him out there getting first team reps and things like that. So I'm excited to see how the competition plays out and how they do the measurements on who is going to get that first opportunity when time comes.
Yeah, I definitely think Mike Edwards being injured gave Damar that first team rep on day one, and because he's the one with familiarity. Obviously, Cole Bishop not quite there, I would assume, yet on day one of training camp. I know he's had some mini camps and things, but you would expect a rookie to need a little bit of time, right? So I definitely understood the Damar Hamlin first team reps day one. Was a little bit more relieved to see Mike Edwards get out there and get after it with the ones on day two, and then definitely excited to see how Cole Bishop progresses through this training camp. And obviously when we get a chance to check them out in some preseason games, I think that's going to be a very fascinating thing to watch when we watch those safeties and see who, where each of them may be at. So, I don't necessarily think that it's really relevant yet to see, too much about what they're doing. Someone mentioned a blitz sack and the comments here, and I can appreciate that. I read on Twitter today on X that Ed Oliver was having a strong day, and it's like he's in shorts and a t-shirt. How is he having a strong day? They're not blocking him. So good for a little bit of talk with those guys, but I guess we'll have to kind of wait for the pads to come on to really make some of those evaluations, and just going to go through the process. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, there's football out on a field, and we can talk about it a little bit. So that's some nice stuff. But in the interest of time, I do, I'll give you guys a minute here. Do you want to say anything else about training camp, or are you good to get into the season preview we have going?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Rolling on. Okay. All right. So we previewed last episode week 1 through 3. So we're on week 4 here. And in week 4, the Bills are going to travel to Baltimore and play the Baltimore Ravens. So obviously a big matchup in week 4. This stretch, even going back, really starts at week 2, I believe, with the Dolphins, right? And then rolls on through with the Jaguars. And then now the Ravens in week 4, the first headline here, obviously Lamar Jackson, right? So I noted he was 5th in the NFL last year in NFL quarterback rating, passer rating. So really high mark there for him. Was 29th in time to throw, average time to throw at 3.21 seconds. So definitely understanding with his propensity to hold the ball and scramble around so much that his time to throw is going to be a lot longer than maybe some other guys. But it also allows, I think our defense, but the potential to be able to get to him as well. And so my thoughts on Lamar is that, obviously I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of his game. I don't think he deserves MVPs over some other people, given the stats and things like that. But I understand why, their success and his role in that team gave him those accolades, and that's fine. But, just overall, I guess, how do you guys feel about the matchup with Lamar Jackson this year, and how the Bills' uncertainty in the defensive line maybe, and in the defensive backfield, if you have any uncertainty there, plays into this matchup and just overall, run through a little bit of the matchup with him and if you want to get into some players that he has around him, like we highlighted here, Mark Andrews, obviously a big component of this offense. I think that they also, you could say, lack the elite wide receiver one there. They're developing a few different wide receivers. You do have Zay Flowers, who showed some promise last year, but not necessarily sure he's a high-end wide receiver one. So we're going to get into their defense, but right now I just want to talk a little bit about what your thoughts are with Lamar, Mark Andrews, and any other guy on offense you want to highlight and just how that matches up with the Bills.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this game. I think I've said this before, but I do live in Baltimore. I can walk to the stadium from my house, so be a fun one for me. If anyone comes down to Baltimore for this game, please hit me up. We may be working on a bit of a triple covered live show, even in Baltimore that weekend. So a lot of exciting stuff happening in the city in which I live for this game. But yeah, the big thing with Lamar is just keeping him in the pocket. We have the athletic defensive line to do that. We've shown that the last 2 times we've played him, where we've kind of kept him contained. Because if you let him get outside of the pocket and buy time, like you said, having like almost the lowest time to throw, like that's not because he sits there like a statue and goes through his reads. That's because he's so good at extending the play. So if the Bills can keep him in the pocket, make him beat us with his arm, not with his legs, we're going to have a really good chance to win that game. Because as we know, he's not the most accurate thrower. He doesn't have the best weapons to throw to. He will panic and force stuff into coverage. So keep him in the pocket, keep him contained. Don't let him get outside. And, like they like to say here in Baltimore, let him get freaky, because they call him El Freaky. But keep him in the pocket, make him throw the ball, and he really shouldn't be a problem for us. Mark Andrews is a really good player. They missed him for most of last season. He broke his ankle in that Bengals game, I think, in November. Came back in the playoffs. It wasn't quite the same. He's a really good tight end, but hopefully by then Matt Milano has got his legs under him. He's feeling a little bit better. He's played 3 games. Like, he's as close to 100% as maybe he's going to get. He's usually that guy that draws that tight end matchup. Taron Johnson can do it too, and Matt Milano is a little bit more physical. So hopefully Matt Milano can try to help cancel him out. And then, yeah, receiving core, very similar to the Bills, like you mentioned. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, no real true number one receivers, just kind of a lot of fast guys who can line up all over. The only difference is we have Josh Allen throwing the ball. They have Lamar Jackson throwing him the ball. I think we'll all take Josh Allen on that one every day of the week. But yeah, they can keep Lamar in the pocket, contain him, make him beat us with his arm. It should be a good night for the Bills. But yeah, that's a big one really early in the season on Sunday night. So excited for that one.
I think a play that we haven't mentioned yet was Derrick Henry being on the Baltimore Ravens. So that is going to be a problem for the NFL, in my opinion, because he is one of the best running backs, and he's going to an offense where he's going to get a lot more. I would expect he's going to get a lot less attention, because people are going to have to account for Lamar Jackson if they run some sort of read option or something along those lines. So he's going to have a lot more opportunity to stay fresher in games, because he won't have to tote the rock as much as he is now. But I mean, the sentiments regarding Lamar are the same as they always have been. It seems as if, when he's had to face players he has been in games with like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't look like the best quarterback on the field. But when he's playing against other teams, he's more of a flat track bully. And like when they have teams that they're simply better than, they will blow them out of the water. Like what they did to the Lions, what they did to the Niners. Like they can run away with games and suffocate you, because when they're running the ball, when it's 1st and 10 and they make it 2nd and 2, it's just draining clock, and now you're chasing them for the entire game, and they're just going to continue to suffocate you. So I think that Lamar he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he's better than guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and that's okay, because he has the talents that make him different than either quarterback. And as it has been mentioned, if you force him to throw the ball, you force him to be one-dimensional, he can look a lot more inconsistent. But I'm very excited for this game. I'm excited to see how they're going to defend the Ravens offense, whether they're going to try and stack the box and say, hey, Lamar, if you can beat us with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews, so be it. Or if they're going to try to do things to try and mix it up or things of that nature. But it should be a really fun game. This is a stretch of the season where we're still going to be on that football high, and hopefully we're going into this off of 3 wins. That would be great. But I'm really excited for this game, especially with what it could mean if the Bills are successful during the season. This could be like a tiebreaker type of scenario thing if the Ravens are also successful. So this is a big game to me.
Yeah, perfectly put there. The Ravens defense helps them win games, period. 16.5 points per game, was first in the NFL last year, led the league in defensive DVOA, and 301.4 yards per game, was sixth in the NFL for defenses. So that ball control style offense, being able to run the rock, and adding Derrick Henry certainly is going to add to that. They had 156.5 yards per game last year, which was first in the NFL running the ball, and that's probably only going to go up. You would assume, given Derrick Henry's talent. I don't think he's necessarily lost enough to be a non-factor. I think he's definitely, like you mentioned, going to cause some problems this year. And the other thing is to mention, plus 12 turnover differential was tops in the league as well for the Ravens. So they take the ball away, don't give it up as much, and they're able to control the ball with their run game. So that works against most teams that they can outmatch and that cannot score on their defense. But when you mentioned some of the higher scoring teams in the league, some of the more offensive teams in the league can have some success against them, and then you're not at that advantage that you were at with some of the other teams that maybe lack the ability or match up differently on your defense. So really good stuff. The way that they do get beat a little bit is in the passing game, 21st in passing yards per game last year. And then, like we mentioned, in the big moments, does Sean McDermott, does this defense have Lamar Jackson and the Ravens number? Do you believe that there's something to do with McDermott's scheme, the Bills roster, the Bills approach? Like, do you think there's something to, playing the Bills that has allowed us to have success against the Ravens in the last few years?
Yeah, I think the Bills do a really good job of keeping Lamar in the pocket and making him throw the ball, especially when you get into the red zone, when things get really condensed. And if you're not a very accurate quarterback, you tend to make mistakes. Like if you think back the last 2 times the Bills and the Ravens played, at least for me, the 2 plays that stick out, the Taron Johnson pick six, the Jordan Poyer interception, both of those are inside the 10-yard line. So if you can make Lamar have to beat you as a quarterback, a lot of times he can't do that. Like look at the Chiefs last season. Some of it was bad play calling, but in the AFC Championship game, I think they ran the ball 5 times with their running backs. They made Lamar throw the ball, and that did not work out for them. So if you can make Lamar throw the ball, keep him in the pocket, things get really difficult for him just because those aren't his strengths. And then, on the defensive side of the ball, obviously they have Roquan Smith, they have Kyle Hamilton. They're both dogs, like not guys that you want to mess around with, but their defense could be a little bit weaker this year. I know Patrick Queen wasn't, everybody's favorite linebacker, but he was a very good player next year playing next to Roquan Smith. He's no longer there. Geno Stone, who had, I think, 7 interceptions last season for them at safety, is no longer there. Their defensive line isn't quite as deep because, they paid Lamar. They've had to pay some other guys. They paid Derrick Henry. So I think their defense is going to be really good. When you think Ravens football, you think defense, but may not be as strong as in years past either. So could be an opportunity for the Bills to take advantage of that and, maybe put up some points in what should be, I think, a pretty tightly matched game.
Yeah, I think that the way Sean McDermott has played against the Ravens the last couple of times, it would lead you to believe that he has an advantage at this point. Like it's the proof is in the pudding as far as that goes. Like he's got an advantage and he knows what to do to either confuse Lamar or make him hesitate for just a half second here or there. And it's really just a matter of whether can the Bills get to 17? Can the Bills get to 21? If they can, they have a really good chance of winning that game. And because it just seems as if the the Ravens have a difficult time sustaining consistent offense against the Bills defense, and it could just be a scheme situation, because sometimes you face somebody and you just know exactly how to defend them, and it just keeps you in games, and it seems right now that is the case, and that's what makes this game, for me, it's exciting, and I'm not as nervous about it as I am for other games on the schedule.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And that gets into the last question I have about this game, and then we're going to do a little predicting. Just so you know, Stokes, you don't have to necessarily give a score if you wouldn't like, but just going to kind of do an overall generalized prediction. Last week, I didn't look at this. I gave on May 15th some Bills record predictions on my X account, and I picked last week without even referencing that. And picked exactly the same. So at least I'm consistent with my predictions between May 15th and July. So I was a little bit excited for that. Does this game have any impact on the MVP race? Could it?
It definitely could. And before that, I'd like to say I did not look at what I predicted before. What I was kind of hoping was maybe I said one thing this time and one thing this time, and then I could just go back and highlight whichever one was right, and people won't remember. But yeah, it definitely could have an impact on the MVP race. You know, that at least in the eyes of the national media, like every time the Bills and the Chiefs play, or the Chiefs play any other quarterback, it's not Bills Chiefs, it's Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. It's not Bills Ravens, it's two-time MVP Lamar Jackson, and who a lot of people think maybe should have been the MVP last year, Josh Allen. So yeah, it definitely could. Maybe not in like stats at the end of the year, but just as far as the narrative goes, because MVP, you know, the voters, they're humans just like we are. They vote with what they see. And if they see Josh Allen go out and beat Lamar on his home field in a primetime game, even though it is week 4 and there's a lot of football left after that, you know, that's going to be in their minds. If it comes down to, you know, one versus the other, it's like, hey, we got it right here. Like Josh Allen outplayed him in his stadium in primetime. They brought out Ray Lewis and he did his little dance, and Josh Allen still won. So could definitely be something that's at least in the minds of voters as we get towards award season.
I think I think a lot will depend upon how the game goes. So if it ends up where Lamar and Josh it's 35-30-32 at the end of the game, they both have great games, I don't think it'll have as much of an impact on either player, win or loss. But if Lamar he's 8 for 17 with 4 interceptions and a fumble, and then it's just him and Josh like head to head in the MVP race, then you could see it being impactful there. But I think a lot of it will depend on the result of the game and how it looks. But it's early enough in the season that it may not be in the mind of voters. But I think more so it's going to be is more so regarding the wins and losses. If the Bills are 10-7 towards the end of the year, Ravens are 14-3, it's gonna look a little bit different trying to compare MVP votes when the Bills are presumably struggling to get in the playoffs, if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't have that being the case, and it's not, but I agree that what you guys say. I think the impact on the MVP race is certainly circumstantial, but I thought it was a fun question to ask nonetheless. And I don't think that necessarily overall it's going to end up having much effect, being a week 4 game. So let's get a couple predictions here. I got the Bills winning this one. Like I said, they've had their number. They're going to go to 3-1 here, and give me your predictions, guys.
I also think the Bills win this one. I think it's a close one, something like 24-20 in that kind of a score range. The initial line, I've seen it either Ravens -3 or Bills -3, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but I've seen multiple sites that are having both ways. Obviously, that will change a ton as we get closer with the over-under around 50.5. A lot of Bills over has been right around that 50 number, which, makes me think that Vegas thinks the Bills are going to be in a lot of high-scoring games this season. But, yeah, I think the Bills win this one. It's kind of a defensive battle, maybe a lot of field goals, a lot of running the ball, but a close one, like 24-20, something like that.
I think the Bills are going to win this game. I'm expecting a game like 23-17, something along those lines. One of those games where they're just grinding it out, and both offenses look a little slow, and McDermott finds a way to slow down Lamar enough, and the Bills pull it out in 23-17. That's my prediction.
Very nice, very nice. I think that I can agree with the defensive approach here. I think it's going to be under, and if it's 3 points or less on the line, I think that makes it a coin flip in Baltimore, pretty much with the betting thing. So that's good predictions. I think we all agree. And for that, we're going to take a quick break from the segment, do a little solo segment here, and I'm going to go first and go ahead with that. And just to preface it, looks like the Bills will be in pads starting on Monday, from what I'm told. And Roy asked a question earlier. I had that start. I just wanted to get that cleared up. I talked to Josh Reed a little bit earlier, and he mentioned that. So that's the thought, is that Monday we will be in pads. So exciting stuff to come. And with that, we'll do a little of this. So my 1 minute segment for this week is going to be, who is your player that you want to see when pads come on? So which player are you most excited for to see in pads? And mine is Ray Davis, the running back. I think Ray Davis has a lot to prove here in Buffalo. I think he can make an impact pretty early on. I'm very excited to see all the offensive and defensive linemen and how they can come out, how Von Miller rushes, how Ed Oliver's doing. But Ray Davis at running back with pads on, I think that's going to be the player I'm most excited to see once the pads are on in training camp and going into the preseason games and things like that. So drop yours in the comments and let me know who you think, or which player are you most excited for to see once the pads come on.
I'm most excited to see just the offensive line as a whole. It's kind of a cop-out. I'm not picking one person, but the Bills have a really strong defensive line. That's no secret. And seeing how the McGovern, David Edwards middle of the offensive line kind of gels together. So really excited to see how they look running the ball, how they look in pass protection. I heard they've been doing a lot of running back screens the first 3 days of camp that haven't really been working without pads, but maybe with pads they will. So just excited to see how they play as a unit, because last year the same 5 guys started all 17 games and the 2 playoff games. That's almost unheard of. And it's not going to be the same 5 guys this year. Same 4 guys, but one of them a different position. So just seeing how they gel together, like how quickly can they start kind of working as a unit, because like we were talking about earlier, this team will go as the O-line goes. So just excited to see some work in the trenches as we get into, deeper into camp.
For me, it's Matt Milano. When you look at how things went last year, it was like we found money with Terrell Bernard. Like the way he stepped up and was able to take control of this defense and be the quarterback on the other side was wonderful for us to see as fans. But over the course of the season, a lot of the thoughts were, man, how's it going to look next year when it's Matt and Terrell back there in the second level? And I think that watching those guys develop their chemistry and watching to see how they can impact the games in the ways that they can, I think that a lot of the ways that we thought the Bills had trouble was in that second level. Who was going to stand next to Terrell and who would be comfortable with doing that? And if you have a guy that is as impactful as Matt Milano is, if he is healthy throughout the course of the season, I think that could be a tremendous game changer. It could be akin to how the Niners were in the past when they had Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. Like when those 2 guys were as good as they were, and in their heyday, the Niners defense was really, really good. And if those 2 guys can feed off each other in that way, it'll make the defense much easier for everyone else.
Yeah, very good. Like I said, the line, both offensive and defensive, have some questions there with the new depth that the Bills brought in, and excited to see those guys. Dwayne Carter, the rookie, obviously seeing where Vaughn might be. But I agree. Matt Milano's a great choice there, and then the offensive line. I'm gonna zero in more on Connor McGovern because he was my top of the top 5 players I'm going to watch in camp, and I really want to see how he progresses through camp, how he's going to perform, how is he going to call this offense from the center position and help the Bills succeed. All right, moving on. We're going to get right into week 5 here, a matchup against the Houston Texans going down to Houston, and everybody knows what that means. It's a matchup with CJ Stroud and Stephon Diggs, obviously. So Stephon Diggs, obviously, first game against Buffalo since being traded. And, I think CJ Stroud had a pretty good rookie season, 101.7 NFL rating, was 4th overall. His average time to throw was 2.93 seconds, 24th in the NFL. So I think, still some ability to get to him as he has to make some decisions. But as we noted here in some of our strengths is that wide receiver core has even more star power now with Stephon Diggs. And if Tank Dell comes back healthy and they have Nico Collins, obviously that becomes a really good core for CJ Stroud to distribute the ball. And they did have 245.5 yards per game offense, 7th in the NFL. So very good offensive side of the ball. What do you guys think about this matchup? CJ Stroud and Stephon Diggs, and any other players you want to mention to single out here?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think all of football really is to see Stephon Diggs, who was such an integral part of the Bills' offense for the past few seasons, and just kind of how it all was so weird for the last couple of years and how it ended. And like, what are emotions going to be like? Obviously, Steph and Josh are really close. How is that going to be? But at the end of the day, like you said, it is a football game, and CJ Stroud is their quarterback. Like, does he have some kind of sophomore slump? He was so good as a rookie last year, so much so that people are already putting him in their top 5 quarterbacks. I think that may be a little early for that. But if he has another season this year like last year, he very well could be. The Texans were supposed to be, kind of the doormat of the league, and there they were at 10-7 wherever they finished and winning a playoff game and being tied with the Ravens at the half in the second round. So it'll be fun to see him. They also added Joe Mixon. I know he's a little bit on the older side, but he still is a household name of a running back who can catch the ball out of the backfield. And with those receivers that they have, like, he's going to get a lot of room to run. Like, they're going to be not necessarily loading up the box when you have Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, Nico Collins. Like, that list kind of goes on and on at receiver. So it'll be really fun to watch. The defense is in for a really tough one, and the offense is going to have to show up. But yeah, I'm excited. Tried not to make it too much of the Bills versus Stephon Diggs, but you kind of know that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, that'll definitely be the talk of the week leading up to it. It'll I'm sure Stephon Diggs will have lots of conversations or interview questions about how he compares Josh Allen to CJ Stroud and everything along that. I'm excited for the game because it's early enough in the season where it's likely that all those key pieces are going to be healthy, and it's also late enough in the season to where you'll have a good idea of how the Bills' offense looks without Diggs, so they can compare it. So it'll be part of the package. Like, hey, how the Bills look with Diggs and how they look in the first 4 games, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as a matchup goes, I think that the Texans' defense is going to have a lot of trouble stopping the Bills' offense, and I could see the Bills' defense having trouble as well because they have 3 legitimate wide receivers and a quarterback who really seems like he understands exactly what to do back there and when he drops back. So I could see this being a really high-scoring game and exciting for anyone who's a fan of offense because I think we're going to be in for a lot of points.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you guys hit the nail on the head there. Offensively, I think it's going to be pretty impressive, and I'm excited. I mean, it's so the Bills are coming off a Sunday night football game against Baltimore to go play a 1 o'clock game, I believe, here against Houston. So not necessarily a short week, but a little bit having to play on Sunday night, and the strengths last year. One of the strengths last year for Houston was they did have a +10 turnover differential, 7th in the NFL. So not a bad clip for them. It's going to be important. The Bills have the propensity at times to turn the ball over, although they had a very good differential as well. So I'm not overall concerned about that. But I think, if the ball bounces one way or another, if the Bills do come out with any flatness or are tired in any way, I think it might bode for a long day for the Bills. And so, my prediction for this game was that the Bills actually lose just because of that. I think that you have the offense of Houston not necessarily showing the ability to run the ball very well, which is good fit for the Bills, not having to put up with that. But I just think coming off a Sunday night game, getting up for Baltimore, back-to-back road games now, this lends itself to maybe a letdown. They're not going to win them all, and this is the one I chose that they may lose. So how much would it pain you to lose to Stephon Diggs and this Houston Texans team? Let's start with Stokes here. We've been letting Scott lead off every question. So,
I don't think I feel like it would only pain me in the sense that the Bills lost the game to an AFC foe. Whether I've got no hard feelings for Stephon Diggs. He was important and impactful to everything that Josh Allen did, and he was great while he was here. And it was time for everyone to move forward, and that was just what it needed to be. So I've got no issue with Diggs in that regard. I'm excited for what he's got going on with this new team. So I couldn't. One second, my dog is right. Oh, jeez. Okay, sorry about that. But at any rate, I wouldn't be too worried about too beat up about them losing to Diggs. I'd be upset that they lost to the Texans because I think it's going to be a fun game, a high scoring game. But I'm not too concerned about the Diggs part of it. He's going to eat wherever he goes, and that's just it. And the Bills aren't going to lose. They're not going to lose so much in the offense that it's going to be like we miss him a great deal, but he's still going to be successful.
Yeah, I also kind of think the Bills are going to lose this game. I think it'll be a good one, but it's kind of sandwiched in there and kind of like a trap game type feel. It's hard to say it's a trap game because the Texans are a very good football team, but so we go to Baltimore on Sunday night, another Super Bowl contender. Right after this, we go to the Jets on Monday night, a team that really could be right up there with us in the division this year. It's just kind of like in the middle. We go to Houston, we play Stephon Diggs. So could just kind of be sandwiched in there in a trap game type vibe. Yeah, I wouldn't be too torn up that they lost to Stephon Diggs. Obviously, I get sad when the Bills lose any games, but it all depends on how they look. If they play well and they lose a tough one, you can live with that. If they just look flat and they look like maybe the moment got the best of them and they were distracted, then you probably have a lot more concerns because, going forward, there's going to be a lot of narratives. There's going to be a lot of storylines. But, yeah, I don't know if we're at predictions yet, but you gave yours, so I'll give mine. I also think the Bills lose this one in a tight one, but, Stephon Diggs being on the team kind of doesn't really affect me one way or the other.
Yeah, Stokes, I guess for the sake of it, we did our predictions a little bit early, but you have something you want to predict here on this game? Where you got it going?
I'm predicting whatever the Vegas over is, take the over. Like there's gonna be points all over the place. I think this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game, 38-35, something along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills lost this game just because of what has been mentioned, that they're going to be coming off the Ravens game, and then they have a divisional game upcoming the next week. I could see them coming out of that game, that Baltimore game, feeling beat up because they're a very, very physical team, and then they have a little bit of a track meet with the Texans. I could see that being a loss. So I don't. So I think the Bills will split these next two games, week 5, week 6. So whether if they lose to the Texans, I think they're going to beat the Jets. If they beat the Texans, I think they're going to lose to the Jets.
Right on. And I thought the same. Whether it's week 4 or 5 or 6, one of those games I thought was going to be a loss, and I chose because the Bills have such a good track record against Baltimore. And I'm just, a hater on the Jets, if you're going to be honest. So I'm going to pick the Houston Texans game to lose. It's like they do have a really good offense, and we'll see, by week 5, if that receiving core is healthy and gelled and CJ Stroud continues to play at a high level. It's going to be a difficult game for this defense, but that's because there is some uncertainty exactly to how this defense is going to operate this year with all the turnover. So maybe, by week 5, that'll change because we'll have 4 games under our belt of watching this defense, and we can really see that they may be up to the task, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. All right, next up, we're going to let Scott go on his 1-minute segment quick, and then we'll get rolling into the Jets matchup and get y'all out of here. So we'll pause real quick for Scott.
Yeah, so I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the receiving core and just kind of hear how everybody's feeling. Who's a guy that you think might surprise some people? I know Curtis Samuel, big free agent acquisition. People think he's going to come in, maybe fight for that number 1 position. Khalil Shakir had a great second half of the season last year in Joe Brady's offense, and there's no reason to think he won't continue that. Keon Coleman, the Bills' first overall pick this year. I know he was in the second round. He was our first pick, so he's shown some flashes at camp. And then Mac Hollins. I think a lot of people think that he's going to make most of his hay on this team in special teams. But from all indications, he's looked great in camp, and him and Josh Allen have great chemistry. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I know he's maybe some people think is like a one-trick pony. He can go deep, but guess what? That's a pretty good trick to have. And he made some big catches in the playoffs. So how could he fit in? And then that number 6 position, Chase Claypool, Justin Shorter. Claypool had a great first day. Justin Shorter, I know, scored a touchdown in the team segment, and I heard threw the ball almost all the way to the highway. So, he's fired up because he missed all of last season and chomping at the bit to get out there. So what does everybody think about the receiving core? Who is someone that you think might step up? Maybe not Samuel or Shakir or someone that we kind of already think will. And then I know, Roy asked us what we think about not having a true number 1 receiver. Do we think one will emerge? We may be sitting here in week 6, 7, 8, or whatever saying, hey, we didn't think we had a 1. Well, guess what? It's this guy. So let me know what you think about the group as a whole, and then who might emerge as that true number 1.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how Keon Coleman emerges in this offense, but ultimately, I think Khalil Shakir is my pick to emerge as the top dog at wide receiver. I really liked his game, the way he came on. Joe Brady talked about him in his press conference as well, and the way he played the last 10 games of the season. I think it was notable. That catch rate's amazing. I think he's got the talent to be able to get open. He's shown that. And he was part of one of my favorite plays against Pittsburgh there, where Allen was rolling left and threw across his body to hit him. Shakir kind of diving, going down near the pylon there. It was just an incredible play to see live. And just because we are live, Jordan Love has signed a 4-year extension worth $220 million. Just so that's a little bit of breaking news there.
And they were waiting for Tua, and then said, we'll give you a little bit more.
Yep. You're always wondering which domino falls first, and Tua fell first, and then Jordan Love followed him up, makes him the highest paid QB in NFL history. There must be a caveat about that. Maybe it's AAV or whatnot. But Jordan Love signed by the Packers despite 1 year starting. So it's good. But back to the receiving core, I think it's Justin Shorter on the back end. as the Bills' depth receiver. And, I think that this team is going to be really good with the multitude of receivers they have. I think again, we talked about positionless football, the way each of these guys can plug in at the different spots. Curtis Samuel in the backfield if he needs to, things like that. This team is going to be pretty good regardless of having or not having your elite name at wide receiver 1.
Yep, I tend to agree with that. I think the easy answer is Khalil Shakir because of the report, because of the guy. He's a guy that among the receiving corps has an actual catch from Josh Allen. So I mean that's an easy one to go to, and I have a hard time disputing that because I think he will probably be on the field the most of all the wide receivers. So whether he's outside or in the slot, he's likely to be on the field for as many snaps as any of the other wide receivers. And if you're on the field for the majority of the snaps, you're probably going to get a greater target share. So that would be who I would pick. But outside of that, I feel like they paid Curtis Samuel for a reason. So they're going to try to find ways to get him, whether that be in space, whether out of the backfield, or whether he's out in the slot, however they're going to choose to use him, they're going to have things for him to do. So I think that he's going to have games where he's going to be so like Debo, but a much lesser extent. He'll go games where he has 2 catches for 20 yards or 3 catches for 16 yards. Then he'll have one game he's got 10 touches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he'll be that high and low just because just depending on the matchup and things of that nature. So that's my expectation as far as the offense goes. But the fact that we don't know how the offense is going to look is fun. And it also could be a little bit scary at times.
Yeah, this Bills offense, just quick as that, reminds me of the 2019 Bills offense, where Josh's second year, they signed John Brown, they signed Cole Beasley, didn't necessarily know what it was going to look like. And then in preseason, they ran the ball a lot, and like Josh Allen didn't really play all that much. And then they came out against the Jets, and they just started so hot. It's like throwing the ball, moving the ball well, like a lot of quick passes, getting it in playmakers' hands. Kind of reminds me of that. Like, we don't know what it's going to look like, but just really excited to see what they do. And I would say the level of talent on this offense and the level Josh Allen is at now, much higher than 2019. So it'll be really fun.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a core that I'm excited about. I think there may be some uncertainty on who is quote unquote top dog, but I don't think it matters. I think that there's multiple guys here that have the ability and they're going to show that they can help this team score some points. So I'm not concerned about that affecting any sort of scoring and whatnot. I think it'll help, like we mentioned throughout the show, different segments here. I think this wide receiver is going to help the Bills more than it hurts because they might not have that elite name. And I think that name will emerge. I really think that people are going to know some of these guys' names by the end of the year and have a little more respect on them. So speaking of respect, let's get into maybe one of the most disrespectful teams in the league. The New York Jets, week 6, we go to New York and finish off a 3-game road trip. I believe it's 3 games, not 4. But 3-game road trip between week 4, 5, and 6. And we know the story here, right? Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. Aaron Rodgers goes down 4 plays into the game, Monday Night Football, to begin last season. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder to come back in this game and really want to finish it out, obviously. So I guess I'll start. Does he get to this game, Stokes? And do you think what do you see for the matchup with the Jets?
My expectation is that he'll get to the game. It would be crazy if he didn't. He had been relatively healthy up until he wasn't, and that's how health is. And he's getting older, and as you get older, I've noticed in myself that it's a lot more difficult to get up after I'm active for a couple days in a row. And so I can see how, if he as he ages, how his body is able to react to whether it's the rigors of the season or even just a bad game here and there. So I expect them to get to the game. As far as how the game goes, the Jets defensively, there are some games where they just give the Bills and Josh Allen fits, and that is very difficult, and that is worrisome for me as a fan, because the way their defense is, where the defense plays the Bills, it scares me quite a bit. And when you have a guy, they have multiple impact players. So when you have Sauce Gardner, we have Quinnen Williams, like two guys who you have to account for essentially every snap. Although you know exactly where Sauce is going to be. Quinnen Williams, he is a game wrecker, and the Bills tend to have issues with guys like that of his ilk, whether it's Quinnen Williams or Chris Jones. Like, those guys impact the game when they play the Bills. Their defense worries me much more than anything Aaron Rodgers can do. Now, their team looks pretty good. They have some pretty good weapons on the offensive side, and they added a jump ball guy in Mike Williams. So that they have pieces on offense that can give you some fits. But the defense is much more worrisome to me. So I'm not too concerned about Rodgers. Just because we have no idea what he's going to be like when he returns.
Yeah, these Jets-Bills games, no matter who is playing quarterback for the Jets, they're always just like rock fights, it feels like. Neither offense really gets anything going. Josh Allen forces the ball against the Jets. I know the last time we played them last season, Joe Brady's first game, the Bills beat them pretty handedly, but the Jets had just quit by that point, let's be real. But in games when they're fully up for them, their defense, like you said, has Josh's number. He tends to throw picks. They seem to get us once a year. Last year was in week 1. The year before, it was, midway through the season when Josh hurt his arm at the end of the game. So I do think Aaron Rodgers makes it to the game unless Leonard Floyd gets him in week 1 again, because they do play the 49ers that Monday night. That's just poetic irony, I think they call it. But yeah, the thing with the Jets is, like, we're going to talk about some of their stats from last season, but like, they really don't mean anything. Like, the Jets offense from last year is not who we're going to see this year. They had Zach Wilson out there for most of the season. And then I think they had Mike White out there, and maybe even Middletown, Connecticut great Tim Boyle for a few games too. So with Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be totally different. They have Garrett Wilson coming back. He's a stud. Mike Williams, can he stay healthy? That's a big question mark too. Breece Hall, a full year removed from his ACL, going into year 3, he should be pretty good. We know their defense and their secondary is going to be good, but week 6 might be when we kind of start to figure out like who the Jets really are and what Aaron Rodgers has left in the tank. So it'll be interesting to see what that team looks like. And, basically everything we saw from them last year on the offensive side of the ball, we kind of just have to throw in the garbage, because it's going to be a different team this year.
Yeah, so things like turnover differential are hard to really understand this year, because although it was 23rd in the NFL last year with a -6, I think that's really something that could be different, because that quarterback is much smarter, much greater with the football than they saw last year with the folks that you mentioned there. So regardless of Aaron Rodgers' physical health, his mental capacity for this game is so great that that's going to help that number out tremendously. And it's going to, I think, seeing him at full strength is going to really be a benefit for the team. 4-time MVP, like we mentioned, and we'll see. I don't have much like to go off of with Aaron specifically from last year, because he didn't play, but I think at least the mental side of the game going into week 6 for the Jets is going to have an edge, because Rodgers, I know Josh Allen and Rodgers do talk. So, that gamesmanship will be fun to see as well. But I think that we'll see. Their health definitely has to be talked about, and we'll see where we're at in week 6. does this game impact the division? Does it at week 6? We're now 2 division games in. We have Miami in week 2, and we have the Jets here in week 6. How much or how big of an impact do you see this game having on maybe the division winner?
I think of. Oh, go ahead, Stokes. You're ready.
No, you're good. So it's the AFC East. So I mean, it's really difficult to tell because the thing about it is the Jets still have to play the Dolphins. I'm not worried about the Patriots this year, but the Jets still have to play the Dolphins, and their games are always weird as well. So like, I feel like the AFC East is going to come down to the last few weeks, and it's going to be a situation where these games. I could see this game mattering quite a bit. So it's just so up in the air. Because I think that all the teams are going to take turns whooping on the Patriots, but each team, it seems like, loses a random divisional game when you don't expect it. Like the Bills lost a couple games last year that you don't expect that they're going to lose. The same way with the Dolphins and the Jets. Really, they had given up, but it's just a matter of like, hopefully they take all these divisional games to heart because you don't know how it's going to look towards the end of the season. So you have to take these to heart and try to get them because they're what's going to lead you to these home playoff games. And when the Bills have home playoff games, it's a lot more fun for us.
Yeah, divisional games are super important. I think it was Bill Parcells. I might be wrong, but he said divisional games are really worth like 1.5 as opposed to 1 win, just because they're so important. You play the teams in your division 6 times, and the easiest way to get into the playoffs is to win your division. And beating the teams in that division goes a long way. And at least over the past 4 years, when the Bills won the division each year, we've beat up on our division. I think 4-2 is like the worst record we've had. So if they can go 4-2 again this year in a stronger AFC East, or even better, 5-1. I don't think they're going to go 6-0, but wouldn't that be cool? Like it really, really does help, especially when you get down late in the season. And we finished with the Patriots in week 16 and week 18. We can take care of the Dolphins and the Jets earlier in the season, and they got to play each other in week 16 and week 18, and we play the Patriots twice. Like that's going to be such a huge advantage. So yeah, this game, I know it's week 6, it's October, it's not even going to be cold yet, but this could be a big one when you get to the end of the season and see where things are shaping up in the standings.
Yeah, I agree. Really pivotal games, weeks 2, 6, and 9. Those 2 against the Dolphins and 1 against the Jets there. And obviously, you do still have the Jets sandwiched in with the Patriots game. So I think that's really that's the stretch that really is going to define the season. And luckily, we do have the Patriots twice during that stretch, which I agree with the assessment from both of you that the Patriots aren't necessarily gonna worry us this year. I don't think they're gonna strike gold and a rookie quarterback blowing the wheels off the league or anything. And I think they're gonna take some time to change over to the new regime and some new talent that's on that team. So I think that you're gonna definitely see a Bills victory for me coming off, especially if my prediction holds true of dropping week 2 at Miami, then dropping week 5 at Houston. Now you're on a longer week, more rest coming into a game in New Jersey, excuse me, and you have the ability to, kind of flex your muscle and see if you can still be that bully in the AFC East.
Yeah, I think this is a win for the Bills as well. The Jets always seem to find a way to be the Jets. Classic example last year, getting Aaron Rodgers, and look how that worked out. But I do think they'll be a good football team. I don't think they're as good as the Bills top to bottom. I don't think they're as deep as the Bills. So I think the Bills win this one. It'll be a lot of fun on Monday night in MetLife. Hopefully both teams are off to a good start. We get an exciting matchup. But yeah, I think the Bills win. I think they win by a touchdown or more. I do think the Jets will be a factor as the season goes on, but I think they're going to be one of those teams that if they stay healthy, gets better as they go. And we're catching them in New Jersey earlier on in the year. So I think the Bills come out with a win in this one.
Yeah, I think they're going to win this game. I I feel like, with it being another primetime game, and with the Jets, like with everything that happened last year, and in similar scenarios, not opening night, of course, but I feel like they're gonna win this game. They're gonna try and exercise those sort of demons, so to speak. I hope that, although I don't want the Jets to be super good, I hope they're not terrible at this point, to where it's not fun. I want it to I feel like it has stakes, and for them to be engaged, because I think this is a good test for Josh to go through a defense as talented as the Jets are, and especially against a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
Right on. Yeah. That's pretty much it with the Jets. I think we said all we really can in July about a week 6 matchup, and I'm even more pumped up than when we started this show now as we go through some of these things. It just really gets me going. I'm excited. Stokes was mentioning before we hopped on about just the excitement and enjoyment of football season, and it goes too fast and then drags before it starts. So definitely in this period of at least a little taste of football on a field, albeit a practice field. We're talking about practice, man, not a game, but still love that. Still love to have something like tangible to discuss. So, and the last thing, and you guys can comment as much or as little as you'd like on this topic, but I will just mention here at the end that it was really great, really inspiring to see Kim Pagula out there, all the tough things that she's been through since suffering a cardiac arrest, and just really inspiring to see her go and help break the team down. I know it meant a lot to all the players that have been here for a few years now, and Josh Allen spoke about that. So really inspired to see her come out there. Obviously difficult to see, that fierce and uplifting woman, have that happen to her, but still, inspiring nonetheless to see her go out and be able to make some of those strides and do that. So.
Yeah, that was awesome to see,
Yeah,
especially given how there was so much uncertainty around if we would see her around the facility again. So that was awesome. And like you said, Josh mentioned how uplifting that was for the team. So hopefully that's, something else they can rally around this season. Just awesome to see her back out there, back out at camp. Just, makes you feel good all around.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Stokes, for joining us. Appreciate you. Shout out what you got going on. Where can people find you? You still doing some stuff with Bill's Chat there? You got what do you got going on around social media things?
Yes, I still work with Josh and Luca. I don't do a whole lot of stuff, but I do have an X account. But I'm hoping to do a little bit more here and there, and just be there at times when the bat signal is called, I suppose.
Awesome. We love having you, brother, and we appreciate all your availability, whether it's slim or not. And are you getting any games this year? Are you coming up to Buffalo?
I think we may. My wife hasn't decided yet. The Bills play the Colts this year, so that's where I live in Indiana. That's a little bit closer to me than Buffalo, so I may attend that game. But I don't make the schedule. I just go where my wife tells me to go. So if she decides that we're gonna go to a Bills game, then we'll go to a Bills game.
Right on. All right. Anything else? Any closing comments, Scott? What do you have going on this weekend? Olympics. You betting on any of the Olympics? And what do you have?
Yeah, I'll definitely be following the Olympics. I did track and field in college, so really excited to watch some of that. A few guys I competed against in college are in the Olympics, which is fun to see. Shout out Rudy Winkler in the hammer throw. I beat him in high school once, so who's to say who the better athlete is? Some might say it's me. But yeah, really excited to catch the Olympics. Excited that they're only like 5 hours away as far as time zone, or 6 hours away as far as time zones goes. So you kind of have them in the background during the day while you're working, and then the Yankees just hit back-to-back home runs to take the lead against the Red Sox. I'm sure they're going to lose and, break all of our hearts. But for those Yankee fans out there who know how miserable they've been to watch the last 2 weeks, or I guess month really, giving us some hope.
Yeah, let's go. I gotta have some bragging rights in the house. My wife's a Red Sox fan, so I
Yeah, well, Judd
definitely enjoy.
just hit a 470-foot bomb, so you can brag about that.
Amazing. All right, guys. Well, if nothing else, like I said, appreciate your time. If you haven't done so already, smash the like, share this episode, share the Built in Buffalo channels with your friends, subscribe on X, Facebook, and on our YouTube channel. Get that algorithm going for us. We really want to grow some things. Thanks to our sponsor, Monster Energy, the official energy partner of Built in Buffalo. We got some exciting things. I'm finalizing the location and stuff, but we will be out pregame, doing some giveaways and stuff. We got some really cool stuff with Monster going, so be on the lookout for that kind of thing. And just catch up with all your Built-in Buffalo shows. Tomorrow you'll get the Founders Pod, and then Izzy on Sunday with the Red Zone Report. Monday we have Buffalo Against the World. Tuesday, catch us in the Twitter Spaces. We'll be on X on the brand account hosting a Twitter space, and then also Wednesday, we have Going Deep Buffalo with Kevin Massari and Kevin Syracuse. Before Thursday gives you the hoof with Anthony Romeo and Eric Brown. So check out all the great content during the day on Thursday. You'll have T Estelle, very, very great at what she does in a little daytime pod. Not Your Average Podcast and Someone Six. Check those out. And then we also have Not Another Buffalo Podcast dropping episodes on Built in Buffalo. So a lot of great content for y'all. Really appreciate your support. So go out there, hit those likes, hit those shares, and we'll see you next week. Go Bills.